a lot of the tips that I'm going to give you guys today in this packet that you had with your study guide, the last page actually goes over some of them. So if you forget what I had demoed about scoring, just know it's in writing right here. Okay, I'm going to start with coils. Does anybody in here have the coil method? You do? Okay, tell me at this point, what do you know about coiling? What do you do? What did you learn?
Who, me or did you learn?
The two of you that got assigned.
Video I was watching yesterday about it. The one that was rolling out the clay to like long snake-like coil things. Then she like roll them up to make them like.
Yeah, perfect. That's pretty much what happens, right? But I'm going to show you some tips, okay? When you roll out your coils, you want to make sure you're working with wet clay, that you have wedged well. And you actually, it's best to roll the coils on the white table. Rolling coils on the drywall dries your coils out pretty fast, and then it makes them crack. I'm doing it on here just because this is where I'm demoing, but that's a good tip to keep your coils moist. So I just kind of squeeze it in my hand, and rolling coils only takes practice. That's all I can say. Oftentimes, when you are first starting, you're going to have coils that are uneven. Notice my hand is running down the length of the entire coil, so it doesn't do that. Oftentimes, you're going to roll a coil and it's going to become like flat, and that's because students will do short rolls, and all you're doing here is flipping it, right? So yeah, it's going to flatten on you. So you do just have to make sure that you're doing like full somersaults, okay? I think your demo video talked about keeping your coils about a finger thickness. Okay. That's good advice, because a lot of this thickness is gonna get smeared in, so you're actually gonna lose a lot of the thickness. So to start off, you gotta start with the base, and you take your coil and you're gonna make a spiral. Remember, you have to build your first vase in total isolation. You cannot borrow from another method. Okay. So if you spiral it and it's not big enough, make another coil and just add on. Or if it's too much, right, just pinch some off. So right now we have this spiraled thing. One side, minimum, has to be smeared in. If you don't smear it in, it's kind of like, think about building with bricks. If you don't smear this in, you have no mortar between your bricks, and it will eventually topple over and fall apart. So this becomes the mortar. And if you like how that looks, you can leave it. Some people don't like how coils look. You can smooth in both sides if you want. Okay? So there's the bottom. I'm going to roll some more coils so I can construct with it. Squeeze it out, and then start to roll. Once you have your coil about, finger thickness, then you'll take it and you'll put it on the edge. And you want to take care to lay it exactly where you want it. And you just spiral it up. Look at how quickly I'm getting height. Okay, you're going to want to check it from all sides. Make sure you've laid it exactly where you want it. And then, like I just taught you, you're going to have to pick one side to smooth in. If you like how the coils look, you'll smooth the inside. If you don't like it, smooth the outside. But I want to talk about coil placement. So your coil, where you put it, determines the shape. And let me show you. If I were to put my coils on the outside edge of the coil below it, what kind of shape am I getting? What's happening?
A bowl?
Yeah, it's like starting to go outward, right? So then if I want it to go inward, what do I do? Yeah. I'm gonna start to set it on the inside edge of the coil below it. Look how fast it closes up on itself. But that's how you make shapes. You know, that's how you start to get curves and things like that, is where you place it. So that's why you have to make sure you are placing it exactly where you want it before you smear it in. Okay. So smearing it in. I'm gonna smear out the outside for you just so you can see better. You can use your finger, your thumb, whatever you like. We talked about wooden modeling tools. This is my favorite tool for smoothing in coils. So you'll support the inside and you're just gonna smear the seams, blend them in. Now guys, this is wet clay. So your seams are gonna be ugly. This is called ugly smoothing. You're not gonna be able to make it look pretty during wet clay stage, so don't even try. All you're doing right now is trying to make it strong. When it becomes more leather hard, then you can perfect it. You can make it look really smooth. You can work on the shape a little bit. Okay? But right now we just want it to hold together. Okay? Let's say that you're building something really large and you're spiraling and you get to about here, and all of a sudden your clay down here starts to kind of topple over or get smushed. What is happening? Why would that occur?
Can't support the weight.
Yeah, guys, this is really gooey. And if I'm sticking maybe 2 more pounds of clay on it, like it gets to a point where you're gonna start to smush it. So it's common that you may have to take this, put it in front of the fan for a little bit, get it a little stronger, and then you can add on top. When doing a 6-inch face, you're probably not gonna have to deal with that. Okay? Now, the fun part, coils. Who says that they have to go around like that? The only rule with coils is you have to use these little rope pieces to construct. So let's see what these little rope pieces can look like. There's so many variations. You can roll a coil, and with this very flexible piece of clay, you can do a bunch of different shaping with it. And then you can take that and let that start to become the walls. The same rules apply, you just gotta smooth out one side so it holds together and bonds. Okay? Another is, making spirals and putting them on the edge of the coils. Okay? So you can get really creative, really inventive. You just gotta make sure you're working with little ropes of clay. Okay? So that's coiling. Next I'm gonna talk about hard slabs. Does anybody have that here? Where's that person gone? Okay. Hard slabs is when you make a slab of clay, you wait for your pieces to get leather hard, and then you build with them, okay? That's hard slab. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make a slab. There are two ways to make a slab. You can use the rolling pins over there, that's totally fine. A lot of students use the rolling pin and they kind of press a little harder than you would have to. And what winds up happening with that is it sticks to the rolling pin. I'm gonna show you the way I make a slab. I make a slab, it's called throwing a slab. So all I do is use my hand first to flatten it out. It's very good to flip and do things from both sides. And then if you notice, as I'm flattening it, I am purposely leaving the center a little bit taller. That just helps distribute the mass. Go about that big. And then what I do is I kind of dangle the slab and then I flip it so that it smears towards me, like that. Kind of flip it towards you, and what I'm doing is I'm stretching it out. Okay. You want to make sure when you do that that you are changing position. Otherwise, my slab's just going to grow this way. Sometimes you may want that if you need a long, skinny slab for something. But most of the times, you want it to grow from all sides. For hard slab construction, you want somewhat thicker slabs. Just about there. Yeah, that's good. The most important thing I can tell you about working with slabs is you must compress them. Rubber ribs work great, and all you're doing is kind of smoothing out both sides. Now, this is not just like a cosmetic thing we're doing. I mean, yes, it smooths it out so it looks really nice, but more importantly, I am recompressing this slab. When you make a slab, guys, you are stretching that clay out, right? When you stretch it out, you're kind of opening up air pockets. Well, we want to close them back up. Both sides. There should be no wrinkles or divots. If there is an air bubble that is stuck in your slab, compressing it, the bubble will rise to the surface so you can see it, and then you can use a needle tool and poke it so that you have no air in your clay. But if you don't compress it, it'll stay hidden. Okay, so hard slab construction. I've got my slab. Most important thing is you need templates. Hard slab construction is for your geometric shapes, angles, corners, things like that. You'll never be able to make something round or organic from hard slabs. So because this is kind of like the precise method, work it out on paper. Figure out how big are my sides and cut out the shape. So what I have here, I've designed, this will be the base or the foot. Then my wall will come up like that, 4 walls. And then my neck and my mouthpiece will kind of angle in that way. Can you visualize it? Okay. So I did all my measurements on paper. I even wrote how many I have to cut. And then you lay these down and you start to cut them out. This way, they're all going to be the same size, they're all going to be the same shape, and you have some precision. You'll be using these wooden boards to store your artwork. Okay, so you take that flat slab. Okay. I'll just cut one more out. Now, it is so important that you plan your work time so that you can cut all of your pieces out in one class period. Why is that important? Why does that matter? Silence. So the next, say it again.
Huh?
Say it
No,
again.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. I have a bunch of pieces that I need to cut out, and it's best to do it in the same class period. Why is that best?
You don't wanna get behind.
That is true.
So they could like be hard at the same time.
Perfect. Okay. It's so frustrating to come to school the next day and you only got 3 pieces cut out, right? And you come back and those 3 pieces are like ready to go, but you still have 4 more pieces to cut out. Now you've got a bunch of pieces that are different stages of clay, and it's really hard to work with that. So you need to kind of plan ahead and have everything ready to go, so you can get them all cut out in the same day. Once you get them all cut out, lightly cover it with plastic, right? Put it away, and then, thank you, sir. And then the next day, hopefully you come back and you lift up your plastic and your pieces are now leather hard. Pass that around so you can feel this one's better. Let's look at the difference. This piece is leather hard, this one is not. Which one do I want to start constructing with? This one or
The hard one.
right? There's no way I can build anything with this right now. But these are ready to go. So that's what we're gonna do next. How do we start constructing? I'm gonna use actually these little guys. I've been doing demos all day, so I'm starting to run out of pieces. So remember I said that these were going to be my neck and my mouth. Can you see that? Fine. A lot of students with hard slab constructions think that when you have your pieces, you're going to score them together like so. Okay? But the problem with that is you're messing up your measurements now. Your measurements won't come out. So what you need to do is take a fettling knife, and instead of having flat edges, you want to cut what's called a miter cut. Has anybody heard of that before? A miter cut? It's a woodworking term. What I'm going to do is one corner, I'm going to cut it off. So it's an angle. It's like a diagonal now. It's not a 90-degree edge. And the diagonals should both go inward. Can you see that? So there's one miter cut. I'm going to show you the difference when I put them together. Okay. So now I have 2 pieces with the miter cuts. Now, when they come together, they still come together with a really nice seam, but I'm not messing up the measurements at all. My pieces will keep their measurements perfect. Okay? So after you miter cut them, now we're going to score them together. Handy dandy scoring rib. When you score your edges, don't be kind and sweet. You need to really rough up the clay. I say that you need to have a bunch of clay boogers. I mean it. Those little boogers turn into like little teeth that lock together, and it holds your pieces together. I will see so many students do it like that. You laugh, I'm not joking. I'm like, what is that? Okay? No wonder your piece fell apart in the kiln. I want you to think of this as like you're making Velcro. It needs to be that fuzzy. Okay, now they're scored. You will need a fingertip of water. I just kind of drop it in there. You don't want to like smear it in because then you smear out all your score marks, right? And when it's time for joining, guys, these are not magnets. They're not just gonna snap, like come together forever. You have to work them together. You have to push. Wiggling is good. When you kind of do a little wiggle, all those boogers of clay are starting to come together. Okay. Now you got two seams, outside, inside. The outside seam, you're just gonna smooth in really good. Bond it, make it look clean. Okay. But the inside, that needs support. And we make what's called a support coil. And support coil is also in your packet. So if you forgot what I said, it's in your packet. Support coil is the teeniest, tiniest coil in the world. You take it, you press it on the inside seam, push it in there, and then I use my finger and I smear it so that it disappears. A support coil acts a lot like caulk, if you know what I mean by caulk. Okay? So that's how to join hard slabs together. Questions on that? All right, moving on. We're gonna go to soft slab now. Is anybody in here got soft slab? Everardo does? Okay. The difference between soft slab and hard slab. It's okay to speak while you're filming. What did you learn about soft slab?
It's like more of like a ribbon where you let the clay do what it wants type of thing.
Nice explanation. Okay. You do kind of let the clay do what it wants. And because of that, I could spend an entire week talking about soft slab because there's so many varieties, all right? But there are a few tricks that I'm gonna share with you. The first trick is you have to work with a thinner slab, okay? Hard slab, they need it to be thicker because they need it to be straight and strong. Your slab, I want you to start to think about it actually as a piece of fabric. If you've ever worked with fabric before, any type of like sewing or textiles, then soft slab is going to be very familiar for you because we do treat it like fabric. All right, that's pretty thin. See how wiggly it is? You still need to compress like every other slab maker in the world. Whenever you stretch that clay, you have to recompress it. Okay, and here's where it gets tricky for soft slab. There's a million things you can do, guys. I'm just gonna show you a couple, okay? When you're researching, you're gonna find some really cool techniques. First is treating it like fabric. So I'm gonna cut out a circle. And if you do research, you will find a lot of online templates for what I'm about to do. And if you find something you like, you can print it out in the classroom, cut it out, and use that template here for your project. Okay, what I'm gonna do with this circle is cut out some triangle shapes. Those triangles in the fabric world are called darts. And this is kind of what you'll be able to find online if you choose some of these templates. You can also design your own. What these darts do now is allow me to bring those edges together to create a three-dimensional form. Okay. So as you can see, very easily, I went from flat to three-dimensional. Okay. Now here's the cool thing about scoring. When you are working wet clay to wet clay, remember, you just need to smooth it in. You don't need to score wet clay to wet clay. Now remember, it's going to be ugly smoothing in, right? It's going to be ugly until it gets leather hard, then you can make it better. But just like coiling, you know, just smear it together, wet clay to wet clay. As soon as leather hard becomes part of the formula, you must score. So leather hard to leather hard, you have to score. Leather hard to wet clay, you have to score. Okay? So that's one way to work with soft slab. Another way to work with soft slab is to really take advantage of this super flexible material. Cut another. And wave it around, you know, bend it, fold it, like kind of see what kinds of things you can do with it while it's wet. Once you get the shape you like, let it go leather hard. Imagine 4 of these. You let them get leather hard, and then you take those 4 and you score them together to create maybe the body of your vase, right? So that's another thing you can do. Get another slab. I'm going to demo one more thing, and then we'll move on. Never hurts to see making another slab. Now I didn't wedge this very good, so you're probably going to see a lot of like little air pockets and stuff. But whenever you have a bunch of scraps that you kind of want to, you know, still use because it's wet, just make sure you wedge them really good. That's all. Okay. So again, you need it thin. You want it to act like fabric. Compress both sides. Let's pretend I did that really good, okay? And then what you can do is take something, anything, use a little bit of paper towel as a barrier because you don't want your clay to stick. And you can use gravity to help make some really cool shapes, right? Kind of press it around while it's wet, you know, maybe work some shapes in there, work some folds. Let gravity do its job. Then the next day, come back, you'll take it off, and whatever shape you have, it'll stay. Now imagine you make 2 of those, and you bring them together to make maybe the body. Okay? So that is how versatile soft slab can be. Okay? Next, pinch and paddle. Anybody in here pinch and paddle? Or is that somebody else?
I think that's me.
That's you? Okay. Did you get a chance to watch the video?
Yeah, I watched the video.
Okay.
I had a little ball and like we took the little loops. I think it was. I'm not sure.
Oh, so maybe you had sculpted hollow, where you took a loop tool
Yeah.
and okay, so you had
And then it's
sculpted.
a ball and then you scoop. I'm gonna explain it.
Okay.
You scoop the clay out. And
Like your
then,
carving.
yeah.
Okay, that's sculpt and hollow. That's probably what you have. We're gonna do that next. Maybe the pinch and paddle person's not here. Maybe that was Hannah or something. All right, pinch and paddle. You're gonna start with a small ball of clay, wet clay. Get it to a pretty good solid ball. And the way to work with that is you take your thumb and you drill into the center. Notice I kind of spin it around. I'm going to go all the way to the edge without piercing it, okay? So that you start with something like this. Then by the act of pinching, I'm going to turn this into a small pot. So I go down to the bottom and I start using my thumb and my finger and I start to pinch the walls. Now here's some tips. A lot of students will set it down and just start pinching the heck out of it. Well, guys, if you do that, you're gonna wind up with a really messed up looking piece. It's gonna get so squeezed and so disorganized that you'll probably wind up almost with like a pancake. So you wanna be really kind of meditative about this. The way I do it is I will pinch a full rotation all the way around, okay? And then I scoop down a little bit and do a full rotation all the way around. It needs to be really controlled, okay? The other really important tip that I can give you is when you're watching this, it looks like my pinching hand is doing all the work. But actually, my left hand is doing the important work. Because if I didn't have my left hand there, and I was just pinching, the clay would move, but it wouldn't know where to go. And again, you'd get some sort of weird like pancake thing. My left hand is controlling it, telling the clay where to go, and helping it become a pinch pot. All right, so you continue to do that. And when you're designing your vase with the pinch and paddle form, basically what you're trying to do is think, gosh, how can I have a bunch of pinch pots that maybe are different sizes, small, medium, large, and put them together to create a very interesting vase. Well, once they become leather hard, like this one, the next day you can come back. Let me get this one a little bit wider. And maybe you're going to take two of the pinch pots, score them, and bring them together. Put a support coil there, talked about that. Bring them together to create maybe the body. And then maybe another pinch pot, you're going to cut the hole out of the bottom, cut a hole here, and maybe it's going to become the neck and the mouth. Or maybe you want it to have a really nice tall foot. Okay? That's how you start to plan with pinch and paddle. Now, the second half to pinching is the paddle part. I'm going to show that to you, but I'm going to wait till the very end. Okay? So that's pinch and paddle. Now you have sculpt and hollow. Okay. Sculpt and hollow, if you made an animal in basic art, that's how we did it. So a lot of you guys already know how to do it. But some of us didn't do that, and so I'm going to explain it. All you're going to do is break your vase down into parts, and you're going to make the shape of each part. So if this is my body, I'm going to take a big ball of clay and I'm going to make that shape. It's solid clay. Solid. If I wanted this to be my neck and my mouth, shape it solid. And then my foot. Okay? So my hope is when I put it all together, I'll have a design something like that. You will make them out of wet clay and then you'll let them get leather hard. I'm telling you that big solid pieces like this, that'll take some time. So putting it in front of the fan will really help, get them dry. Once they're leather hard, you will use loop tools And remember, guys, I have so many different kinds, so many shapes and sizes. Use the one that works for you. And you're gonna just start hollowing out all the insides. Take out all the guts. Okay, you'll continue to do that until you have hollowed out the entire piece. You want to be really picky about it. You want the walls to be even thickness. So going back and inspecting it, and if you see, a thick spot, you're going to go ahead and scrape that out a little bit more. The other thing you want to be picky about is going back inside and compressing the clay. Again, not only does it look nicer, right? But we are strengthening our clay when we compress it. So again, using a wooden modeling tool and getting in there and smoothing it all out, okay? Once you have hollowed out all of your parts, then you can score them all together. Okay? Then you're scoring hollow parts together. So I want to talk about paddling now. With pinch and paddle, it's like just part of the process. It's part of the method. And since you're my last group, I can actually take two pieces and score them together. Okay. So, scoring rib, scoring rib. Anybody see it? There it is. Okay. So again, score it. Now here is the other rule with scoring. Well, it's kind of the same rule, but here's a good example of it. This is wet clay. I just pinched this. This is leather hard. Remember, if leather hard is in the equation, it has to be scored. Okay. Okay, nice and boogery. Fingertip of water. You just drop in there. You don't need a ton. Sometimes too much water will just make your clay slippery and it won't stick together. And then bond them. Wiggle them around, use a lot of pressure, bond them together. They're not magnetic. Okay. And then remember a little support coil in that seam. It will make it look better, of course, but it will also make the seam stay together. Press it in there. But then you use your thumb or something and smear off the excess. So it all blends in. Okay. Now that I've joined these two pieces, boy, they look kind of funky. You know, like I'm not totally happy with the shape. That's where paddling comes into play. The reason why I saved this for last is because you know what? Paddling is for all the methods, really. You can paddle to improve the shape of any of your vase. It's not just isolated to pinch and paddle. So what you can do is tap lightly, which will help like gently shape it. You know, if I want an egg shape, I'm almost there. I'm just trying to perfect it, right? It also compresses the clay. We've talked about that a lot, but it does. It compresses it and makes it even more perfect and stronger, you know, and then it will allow you to smooth it out if you like smooth. But can you see how much better my shape is from paddling? But the other cool thing about paddling is you can totally change the shape from paddling. So I started with this rounded, solid piece, but if I wanted to change that at leather hard, I can really alter the shape by flattening the sides. And now I'm actually turning it into a squared form. With nice flat edges and some sharper angles. Okay, so just by paddling it, I completely changed the whole look of that vase. It's also nice to have kind of like a squared part and a rounded part. Okay. So that's why I saved paddling for last. It's also awesome for hard slabs. Paddling those edges to perfect them even more. Okay. So that was your very quick demo. You know, quick basics, good tips. You know enough now to design your vase, research it a little bit more, and now you just need to do it. You need to touch it, you need to try it, you need to do it. Okay? Questions? We have a few minutes left if you need to go and finish something up. If you want to take a sketch paper and get that done over the weekend, be my guest.